looking at your life and are you seeing where you're wanting to go? Are you seeing where you're wanting to be at? I mean, Dory, you looked at yourself and you looked at your flower bed and you said, I don't want to do this next year like this. So you made choices to take care of that, didn't you? You made choices to scale down because you don't want to spend the rest of your life weeding. And I get that 100%. That's why they make weed eaters around us. But the thing is that David's like, yeah, when are you going to do that in your yard? The thing is that we are at this point of making the determination. And it says, make sure with all diligence that your calling and election was sure. And I always heard that calling and election, that you're running for an office. But it goes more so that, in other words, your calling. So if we're going to make sure that you're calling. So Lance, I hate to keep picking on you today, and I'll get off you as soon as I can. But calling, what would calling be? Well, you think your calling in life would be to be a baker? Mm-hmm. You don't have no desire for that, do you? You have a desire, and I was thinking about you yesterday, how you've chosen a path and how you kind of went and you went down and you've seen the opportunities. You made that choice. But the problem is that when we make choices, oftentimes our choices are what? They're temporal. They're the things of this flesh. AJ, how did you choose Burger King? How did you choose that career path? You just kind of just did it, didn't you? Just
one thing, one opportunity, just kept opening up and just kept going more and more.
Yeah, and you stuck it out. But the thing is that when we talk about calling, there is a way, but our problem is that we live in two worlds. We live in a spiritual world, and we live in a physical world. It's rare that the two overlap and they coincide and run side by side, and I've entertained the thought, what would it be like to be a full-time preacher? I don't know. I couldn't do it. Number one is I like, having a job or having work, because nothing personal to me, torture would be going and listening to somebody complain about all their, this and that and this and that, because heck, I live that world, and when I choose, I don't want to be brought down by that. Preachers, what they have to carry the full time is a tremendous burden. It is a tremendous burden Amber's, what would he be? Your uncle, Gary? Huh? Step uncle. And the thing is that he was a full-time preacher. And look, not a big church.
I don't know if he'd be a step uncle, he'd be my uncle.
He'd be your uncle. And she married your aunt. Yeah, but point being
uncle by marriage
is that he would be somewhere and they would call him.
He's my uncle.
I know, just Nikki's the only one.
And they would say, what? He'd have to go bring them hamburgers and cheeseburgers.
I would call for the silliest things.
And that's what he had to do.
I want a hamburger from McDonald's.
Because he's out having to make all these things. And the thing is that if he did not live up to that, he was gone. So you're at their beck and call, and I never wanted that. When we're looking at our life, I knew what I wanted to do physically. Spiritually, I wasn't certain. I wasn't certain where I would end up and how I would be. I know that in the past, we've done different things, and I've gone out and done different ministries, and it's great to do different ministries. But I find that now I would much rather teach. I'm more natural in the teaching environment. More natural in trying to encourage other people. So the question is that what is because when a person's spiritual life and physical life is healthy, and what I mean by that, you're not in willful sin. You're not in willful disobedience. It's quite one thing to go to church. Heck, the evil goes to church. Going to church, AJ, is not an accomplishment. I've said it all along that there are some people that Satan does everything he can to keep them from church. Then there are some that he picks up in the school bus and brings them to church because they are disruptors. So say you're going to church and doing the churchly thing, and that's not going to save you. It's not going to get you into heaven. Because it says right there, he says, because it goes on further, it says you will never fall. He talks about making the choice to live like you're not earning. My father-in-law, he asked me the other day, he says, so son, he says, Axton and I went up and painted the deck. And he said, son, he says, how much? He said, just tell me how much time you got to do. And I said, I don't want to get paid for this. He said, well, why not? I said, Danny, this is camp. This camp is different. I said, for me, this is my way of earning my way. I didn't buy this. If I could help maintain this, then I would feel like I have more of a right to be there. I think sometimes that is how we equate church. This is our way of buying our way, because think about it, what is going to church if you're not applying church? You're just going through the motions. It's better just to sit at home, because the problem is that there is the sin of omission. In other words, if you've heard something and you've heard that this is a sin and you know that this is wrong, and then you choose to do it anyway, AJ, now it's even worse. You're having a meeting and you got employees and you tell everybody, say, guys, look, under no circumstance do we need to overcook. Under no circumstance. Well, I just want to overcook. Well, at the end of the day, you've got all these patties. What's going to happen to you?
Extra food costs.
Exactly. So the thing is that eventually you're going to be caught, because you are the boss. You are the one who's supervising.
I got to answer for it.
Got to answer for it. The thing is that we live a life thinking that we're not going to have to answer for it, because we don't ever see our boss. We never see our boss. And why do we not see our boss? Think about this. Why do you not see God?
With the big ride.
Huh?
Big ride.
Well, in reality, we don't see our boss because we don't look for our boss. I believe that if a person looked for God, it would terrify you where you see God at. I see God everywhere. I see God in everything. I see the creation of everything. But at the same time, as a pastor, I see repercussions in your lives, because I've been where you're at. I've been the guy sitting in the pew. I've told y'all stories that I couldn't wait for the altar call. The minute I heard the pastor walk by me as he's doing the prayer, I was happy, because I had resisted another day, AJ, of changing. I couldn't wait for it. I knew I needed to, but if I could just endure a little bit longer, I've paid my tithes. And what I'm talking about by my tithes are going to church. I'm doing this thing. But the reality is that I wasn't happy. I wasn't complete inside. Zeke and I was talking this morning about where Doc Holliday looked at Ringo, and he talked about this black spot where his soul once was. And these people who have made these deals, and in reality, we all make deals. We all make deals, whether we want to admit it or not. And the thing is that some of us choose to sell our soul so cheaply. So cheaply. Whether it be gossiping, whether it be griping, whatever you choose to sow, that it's not causing you to have spiritual growth. You ever feel stagnant? It's like what we was talking about, AJ. You're stagnant. You're just there. You're not growing. Well, why are you not growing? Well, you go to church every Sunday. Well, is that it? Is that all that you're doing? I'm not talking about going out there and standing on the street corner and witnessing to people. That's not the case at all. Maybe watching your mouth. Maybe choosing to not cuss this day. Maybe choosing this day to not live this manner. Maybe choosing to not have a negative attitude. Because if you have a negative attitude, how does your attitude impact upon other people? Somewhere along the lines, we're going to have to make the determination of making a choice. I mean, seriously, just making the choice. Kerry, if you had the ability to go back, what choices would you do differently? You know, what decisions would you redo, and what things would you change, and, you know, so the bigger thing is that what do you do with this information? Do you hoard this information? Do you help other people? Where we're talking about is an awakening of our spirituality. We're talking about setting ourselves up. Y'all have heard me say it. I wish so much that I had really put forth the effort to establish and maintain a much better retirement plan. I live that nightmare now. I live it every day. It bothers me every day. But the reality is what can I do about it? So then why do I get attacked every day? Because again, it's trying to draw me back down. In other words, if my mind is focused upon these things of all the things in the past that I've done wrong, I'm not thinking about positive growth. I'm not trying to grow. I have ideas, Lance, on how to carry us beyond this point. But having an idea means nothing if you don't choose the idea. I've had so many different ideas and avenues with which I can make money for my family. It's great to have an idea. But until you choose that idea and start going down that path, sometimes if we pray over it and we say, hey God, I don't know the right way to choose. I don't know the right thing to do. I seen where mowing lawns is a great thing, but just like the other day, I pulled out on the road, Lance, and within less than a mile, I seen 6 lawn trucks within less than a mile. Just going different places. And I'm talking about from there to a mile from Walmart. What does that tell you? It's market saturation. There's so many people doing it. There's still a need for it, but yet there's a lot. So do I want to spend my time developing that? So I'm going to have to bypass all of these other people and grow bigger than them, or I need to make a choice to go another direction. I've got a limited amount of time. A friend of mine asked me the other day, he said, hey man, you know, the first day, he said, hey, you gonna come here and work? He said, I'll let you, Lance, he said, I'll let you work, and he says, I'll coach you a little bit. And I said, so what does it pay? Oh, you're just doing it for practice. Okay, so Lance wants me to come out there and just practice with him doing cement. Lance, no, nothing personal, I love you. No, if I want practice, I can work for my wife. She'll tell me what to do. So he called me again the other day. He said, hey man, I'm kind of in a bind here. I know he's probably making about $3,000 on this roof, and it'll take a couple of days to get it done. And he said, hey man, you'll come help me out. He said, it'd be a good opportunity for you to learn. So, you spend a day or so working on it. And I'm thinking, a day or so. I said, so what does it pay? Oh, he says, well, you're doing it for academia purposes. No, I don't need to do this. There's other things that I choose to do. If you're going to get anywhere, you're going to have to make the choice. You're going to have to set your heart upon somewhere. But you also have to make the choice, God, is this your will? Because some things and some people and some jobs are not God's will. I've seen so many different areas, so many different opportunities, and I've said, God, is this your will? And guess what God does? He'll block it. Well, what do I do now? You move on. You still seek out God in all things, and He'll lead you the direction, even if He's got to make you run into a bunch of blind spots. But why does He make you run into blind spots? So you'll eventually learn. But it all starts with choosing a resolute life. You have to make that choice. You have to make the choice, what do I want? What do I want? What are you looking for in a relationship? What do you want? And again, you can say whatever you want to say. All I can tell you is what God says how to do it. And the thing is that you can add, you can take away. That's your business, and that's not my concern. It's my concern to say, inquire from the Word of God. What does God say about this? If you can't find your answer there, ask somebody else and say, lead me the right way. But you're going to have to make a decision somewhere, somehow. I've said it over and over again that so many people are going to be so disappointed. The ones who say, I will wait until this last moment. I want to live my life. I want to do my thing. And as I get older, then I'm going to settle down. Well, how does that work?
You know,
It don't. I've seen so many people, what they've done was they believed that, and they used the thief on the cross analogy. They think that, well, since, Jesus gave that dude on the cross one last chance at death. Lance, did you remember at all right before the crash, God said, hey, Lance, where you at, bud? How you doing? You didn't have no time for that conversation. It just happened. So you're not going to get that chance, AJ. It's not going to happen. The thing is that what is it going to take for you to be convinced? What is it going to take for you to start choosing a lifestyle that lines up with the Word of God? When I go to the grocery store, I have to make the choice to put my buggy up. I could be tempted to push that sucker anywhere because I'm usually either mad about the prices there, or I'm upset with some person who's waited on me, or somebody said something, or I'm whatever happening. I don't want to live a godly life. The problem is that if I want to be blessed, I know that I need to be blessed. I know that I have to have God's blessing to endure. I was telling Zeke about this. Zeke has a prayer request. And so when Zeke says he's ready, we'll proceed down that road. But I've been going through my little health scares thing here recently. And one of the things that I've had is I've had a spot on the side of my face, a bump. If y'all remember a few weeks ago, I started growing a beard. Well, the reason I started growing a beard, I had a growth right here. And every time I would hit it, guess what? It would hurt. And then it would itch. I'm thinking, oh man, God, the last thing I need in this world is a skin cancer. It's the last thing I need. All I can see is my face get melanoma or whatever it's called, face eaten off and me dying. Well, how is that going to get me to my plan? What? What? The image. But the point is that people do that. There are people who have literally died from skin cancer. It got into them and it killed them. And see, I've asked this request of God, that I live longer than ever. Reason being is, I don't know who I can depend upon to take care of my wife. I don't know. Axton. Video games comes up. Addison. I don't know. I don't know which one. And Bailey. I don't know. The thing is, I know I'm going to take care of her needs. Whatever she wants, that's what I'm going to build. We're getting ready to build gnome forest now. That's the new thing is gnomes. So we're going to have fairy gardens all in the garden now. That's the new thing. But the thing is that if that's what my wife wants, that's what she's going to get. She is the one that I want to be with the rest of my life. But the thing is that I'm like, God, I've asked you to help me out during all this. Why am I having this thing about skin cancer now? And it was itching me all the time. I'm like, oh, this is not good. This is not good. And so I sit down the other day and I said, okay, God, we need to talk. That's kind of how I did it. We need to talk. I'm trying to live a better life. I'm trying to be a better person. Nothing personal. I really, now, if you choose that this is what I have to go through and how you're going to do all these things, so be it. I can live with the aches. I can live with the pains. I can live with the regrets. The whole thought.